Hello, hello. Hello everyone, let us get started. I just stepped away from for a minute, so good evening all. I just wanted to ask you all a question before we get started. Would you all like me to have a class sometime on Friday morning to teach the other two chapters, or would you rather wait until Monday? I want to see what you all think, because you are the ones who attend class regularly. The others just listen to the lectures. So would you want me to record it? I mean, I can have a class live on chapters 11 and 16. They are the only ones left for next Monday. So what would you prefer? I can't read the chat boxes, so sorry, I can't read the, what does this mean? Either works for you, okay. But Friday is an exam day, okay, because that's the thing. We just got a notice from Pearson. It appeared on eCollege suddenly this evening that the website will not be functioning properly due to maintenance from Saturday evening around 8 o'clock until Sunday noon. I just forwarded that message to all of you. When you open up eCollege, yeah. So let us continue doing it on Monday evening. I mean, Monday evening, if it doesn't work out, I'll open a recording on Tuesday. But Monday evening should be fine. Okay, let us stick to the original schedule. I just wanted to find out, okay, because I thought I'll give you all an extra week to study for the final. But that's okay. I mean, let's continue with the original plan. That was what I thought until I saw that notice from Pearson saying that, and they do this from time to time. They say that they need. Good question, Christos. What did I tell you all when I emailed you the syllabus? Anyone remembers? Can anyone else take Christos' question? I told you all to read the syllabus carefully, right? Exactly what chapters are given on the final are given in the syllabus. Kimberly, good for you to keep up. Yes, it covers, 8 to 12 and 16. That's right, if I remember right, yes. All right, I've already opened the lecture on chapter 10. Wait to hear that until only after we finish chapter 9 should you work on chapter 10. That's my opinion, because you calculate cash flows, then you do the risk analysis, you do the capital budgeting analysis, which is chapter 10 lecture. That is a really good lecture. It came out very well, and that semester we actually had a transcriber because there was a student who needed a transcriber in that class, in that particular year. So we have a complete transcript for the whole lecture. And because of that, actually, it helped a lot of other students also. So that's the reason I kept that recording. From time to time, I use it, especially in summers. Well, anyway, next Monday will be your last class. We'll do chapters 11 and 16. And after that, of course, you have the final. Now, here's what I'm going to do. Let us do chapter 9 now, and chapter 10 lecture is already open. If you look at the left side of your screen, as soon as you open the class website, you'll see chapter 10 lecture there. Click on it and you'll be able to play it. Okay, let's get started. Now, this is from not recently, but a couple of years ago, actually 1 year ago. There are three reasons wants to combine fortune. There was Elon Musk merged Tesla, SolarCity, and all that. Why? Essentially, there were also other cases. Let me explain why. Okay, you can look up these things. What it basically means is you need to be able to identify what exactly are the ones that will work for you. Like, for example, no one ever thought 30 years or so ago that people would be buying bottled water one day. I mean, water is a free product. 75% of this planet is covered in it. In fact, we all live in a space, 1/3 of that size of the total water available here, but we are all purchasing water, aren't we? I mean, you go to a new town, very few of us actually drink off the taps. We normally prefer to drink bottled water like it is something safe. I mean, a guy like me who grew up on, I mean, my dad used to work for Indian Railways, so I grew up on railway platforms in India. And although I was not really on the platforms, I used to drink water off the railway platforms, and I can assure you it was not the healthiest. Even now, if I go to a new town, I only drink bottled water. And I find it amusing that that I've changed so much. The main things that you must remember is, it's simply this. You do not know until you undertake a project what exactly, whether it will succeed or not. Sometimes you look at a product and think, oh, this product will be a big failure. But actually, it might turn out to be a great success. Okay, sometimes you look at it like, today is the 10th anniversary or something of the introduction, I think of iPhone. Is it iPhone? Some particular iPhone today is the 10th anniversary. I can't remember which one. So, what we do is, let's do this then. Capital budgeting, capital expenditures, cost of capital, and required rate of return. Let us look at these three things. How do you classify projects? Okay, you can classify projects in several different ways. Like, for example, independent projects. Let me say this is like this: A and B. Let's say General Motors is considering introducing a new small car and a new version of the Cadillac. Those two can be considered independent projects because people who are in the market for the very small car, or the subcompact as they call these days, and people who are in the market for the luxurious Cadillac are completely different from each other as the market group goes. Because of that, they can be classified as independent projects, because accepting or rejection of one has no impact on the other. I mean, you do not go in there thinking, I'll buy a Chevy. What is the lowest end one right now? The Chevy, the lowest end one they have. Anyone remembers? They have a really small Chevy. Some starts with V. I forgot the name. Yeah, Chevy Volt. Is that the smallest one they have? Okay, let us say if the Chevy Volt, you do not go to a General Motors dealership thinking, I'll either buy a Chevy Volt or a Cadillac Escalade. I mean, you're talking about two completely different kinds of cars. I mean, one's a subcompact. Generally, for most people, it is the first new car they'll ever have. And whereas a Cadillac Escalade normally signals something else. So you do not, so when General Motors decides on them, they decide them exclusive of each other. Now, what about mutually exclusive projects? Mutually exclusive projects could be like this. Let us call this C and D. Let us say both are mid-sized cars. Acceptance of C means rejection of D. Acceptance of D means rejection of C. They are called mutually exclusive projects. Now, there is finally what are contingent projects. What are contingent projects? Like, for example, let me show you all this. Let's get photos. I couldn't get the photo to show up on my browser. Let's go here. Wikipedia. There you go. Do you all see this? Chrysler Crossfire. Do you see that? Chrysler Crossfire? Okay. Now this is a, I don't want to get sued, so let's see. This is a different looking car. Okay. Now if you look at the tires on this car, they are significantly different. The design is different. I mean, it looks like, I mean, at least to me, it looks like someone changed their mind a lot of times after they started designing this car. Okay, now let us say it was rare for a car to have tires this big when it was first introduced. I mean, they did this, I think it was 2004 to 2008. In 2004 was the first time they introduced this one. And when I looked at it, I thought, okay, now this is what something which is neither an SUV nor a car looks like, because the wheelbase is pretty big, the car is pretty spacious, but somehow it gives the appearance of a well not thought out product. At least to me it did give me that. Now let us say you have big tires like that, okay, that you want to sell to Chrysler. The acceptance of tires depends on Chrysler accepting the design of that car. If they want to go with a conventional design, okay, that the tire project that, let us say, Goodyear wants to sell to Chrysler is contingent on Chrysler accepting that they'll go ahead with that model. Do you all understand what it means? It is dependent on something else. Okay. Now, what about capital rationing? Capital rationing means, you already saw it in previous chapters. What does capital rationing mean? You all know. No one. Okay, let me ask you all this. Kimberly, how many hours do you have in a day? 24, okay. Let's see if there is any. Brian, how many hours do you have in a day? Yeah. I asked you how many hours do you have in a day, Brian? In your day? Oh, well, sleep is what you do optionally. You don't need to sleep really. How many do you have? Totally, 24. Okay. Now, looks like you all both are in the same time zone. So am I, because I got 24 hours a day too. All of us have the same. Just like that, every company has a budget. Okay. Some companies' budgets are big, some are small. So you have to decide which projects to invest in, which not to invest in. Like, for example, take the case of this. You all saw this earlier in the previous chapter, which was only yesterday actually. Come to think of it. You have simplified capital budgeting model. You have A, B, C, D. Now if you look at this, A, B, C, D, E. Now the marginal cost of capital, cost of successive increments of capital acquired by the firm, MCC. As you see, you accept A, B, C, D, and E but you stop at $9 million because all the projects beyond that, F, G, H, and I, do not give you your expected rate of return, that means they get you a rate of return that's below the marginal cost of capital. So what are the problems that you get with capital budgeting? All projects will not be known at one time. I mean, you may come to know about 2 good projects at the same time, which may force you to choose, and sometimes you don't have a good project at all. And difficulty in determining the shape of the MCC and estimates of cash flows have various degrees of uncertainty. So what you do normally when you want to decide whether to invest in a project or not is, you first decide on the capital budgeting process. You first generate capital investment project proposals. You estimate the cash flows. Then you evaluate the alternatives and selecting projects to be implemented. And then you finally review a project's performance after it has been implemented and post-auditing its performance. So we are going to be looking at this part in this chapter. This is chapters 10 and 11. Okay, how can you classify investment projects? Projects generated by growth opportunities, projects generated by cost reduction opportunities. Cost reduction means sometimes you accept a project because it reduces the cost. Like for example, if you look at Boeing planes, I mean, when they introduce a new plane, they normally introduce it not for 1 year or 2 years. They don't come out with new models every year like car companies do. They come out with a new model maybe every dozen years or so. But what happens is, once a plane is introduced and once it starts getting a lot of orders, they try to look at parts of it and see which part they can redesign so as to save costs, which means to increase profits. They do that. Okay, they decide, okay, this is better, so let us do this. Like for example, even the car models. Some car models have been around forever. Like for example, if you look at the 1984 Toyota Camry and you look at today's Camry, you'd be surprised at how little similarities are there between 84 and now. So just like that, and then price generated to meet legal requirements of health and safety standards. So all these things are there. Now when you have this, which types of cash flows are typically associated with a project? You have net investment, net operating cash flows. For a normal project, cash flows change direction one time. Non-normal project, cash flows change direction multiple times. What do we mean by that? This is a normal project. Okay, here there is a change here from negative to positive, and then it remains positive. This is a normal project. Now these are all non-normal projects. That means here you are investing 100,000, 80, 60, and then again it changes here and then changes here. That's non-normal. Anything that has more than one change or no change at all, which is the last one. This looks like a health and safety thingy. So what you basically do is you actually start off with investing some heavy investment, and then you maintain it every year, which is what explains this project. See. So these three are non-normal because the cash flows change direction more than once or don't change at all, as in the case of Z. So cash flow should be measured on an incremental basis. What do I mean by incremental basis? Let us say I am opening a lunch center here in Commerce. Okay, if I'm opening a lunch center here in Commerce and I'm selling 4 different kinds of commodities. Okay, I'm offering lunch A, B, C, and D. And I'm selling 200, 300, 400 and 600 of these on a weekly basis. So I have what, 1500 is my weekly sales. Now let us say I decide to include choice E in the menu. Now let us say A, B, C, D, E. E is gone to 400. Let us say it's hard to write with the mouse. Okay, D, let us say, is 300. Now what are my new total sales? 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 15. Okay, let me change this to 500 actually. So 600 actually. I should not have changed that much. Let's make this 500. So now we have 5, 3, 8, 8, 5, 13, 4, 17. Now what is the difference between this and this? It's 200, not 400, because you're selling, just because you're selling 400 of E does not mean your sales went up by 400. What it actually means is your sales actually went up only by 200. That means incrementally you're eating into your own market because people have stopped buying more of D and are not choosing E, which means you're eating into your own market. Procter & Gamble is known for doing this. They attack their own products with newer products. Thereby they ensure that they take their market share and not a competitor. Cash flows are measured on an after-tax basis. All the indirect effects of a project should be included in cash flow considerations. Sunk costs should not be considered. Like for example, if you paid a consultant something 2 years ago, that report was submitted 2 years ago, and now you decide, oh okay, I'm going to include that here. No, you cannot, because that's a sunk cost. Opportunity cost should be considered. Opportunity means by doing this, what are you losing should be considered too. Okay, now if you look at this chapter, there are 2 things that are very, very important. Okay, now what are the 2 things that are very, very important? I want all of you to turn to page, where is this? Let us see. All right, go to page 326. Ah, Alicia's already preempted me. I didn't see that on the screen. I was looking for it. Okay. Basically, this is, if you follow this step-by-step procedure, the chances of making an error get minimized significantly. How do you learn the net investment of a project? The net investment of a project is basically this: the net cost of the project plus any installation and shipping costs associated with acquiring the asset and putting it into service, plus an increase in the net working capital initially required as a result of new investment. Whenever you buy a more efficient machine, you need to invest more in inventories. That's what they call that as an increased net working capital investment. Okay. The net proceeds from the sale of existing, this minus the net proceeds from the sale of existing assets when the investment is a replacement decision. That means, let us say if you're getting rid of an old van, like it's the trade-in value. Okay, that's what they're talking about. Then the taxes associated with the sale of existing assets and our purchase of new assets equals net investment. We will be doing a problem on this, so don't worry, we'll go over this. But this part is very important. So is the next part we are going to be discussing. Now, if let us say a firm's net investment is spread over several periods, you need to take its present value to make sure net investment is calculated in present value. All right. This is the second most important thing in this chapter. It is the formula given in page 328. It is 9.3. Formula 9.3. Very, very, very important. Let us say you have one project right now you are working on, A, which has 10 years of life left. Now you are including B. Now A and B together, how do you know the net effects of B? Revenue with B minus revenue without B. RW minus R without. Minus operating costs with B minus operating costs without B. The differential revenue minus the differential operating costs minus the differential depreciation. Depreciation is a non-cash expenditure. So you include that as well. Once you're done with that, so what you get is differential earnings before taxes. From that you remove the taxes. Then you add back the depreciation. And the change in net working capital. Add back depreciation because depreciation was a non-cash expenditure. We'll be working problems on this too. Do not forget these steps. If you follow these steps, calculating net investment, calculating differential cash flows, I've been doing this a long time. I found out that whenever I become too overconfident and don't use this, I'm prone to error from time to time. Not all the time, but let me put it this way. Whenever I get very overconfident, the subject teaches me a lesson. I can afford to learn new lessons in the middle of exams, but you cannot. So don't do it. Just use these because it helps. Because there is an equation. Just plug in the numbers. If something is not there, put in 0. It should work out. I don't make many mistakes, guys, because I already have the solution manual. You all know that I have the solution manual, right? Don't you? Yeah. Did you think I was actually solving those problems when you send them to my home? Yeah, Johnny, right. You didn't know I had the solutions manual, right? You all thought I was working those problems for you. No, I just copy and paste, guys. Yeah, well, one of the reasons I get the solution manual is they're worried that I may not know the answers to the question. They've met me. Okay, 1 second. Okay, recovery of after-tax salvage value. How does this work out? Let us say you purchased an asset for 80,000, okay? And now, after depreciation, its value is 50,000. So it's called a book value. Now, if let us say you sell this asset for 50,000, there are no tax consequences. If you sell it for say 40,000, that means you sold it at less than book value, you'll get tax savings. That means your marginal tax rate say is 40%. 40% of 10,000, 4,000 will be your tax savings. Now let us say you sell it for 60,000, which is more than the book value. You pay taxes on the extra capital gain you made. Okay, if let us say you sell it for even anything higher than 80,000. Let us say you sell the whole, right now the book value is 50,000, but someone wants to pay 100,000 for you for the asset. You pay taxes on that 50,000 gain at the same rate. Don't worry about the last part. There is no longer a different rate in this textbook that covers it. Actually, the marginal tax rate is the same for both. So sale minus the cost value is the same. In the last year, what happens is when the project ends, you recover all the net working capital you invested in it, so you add it back. So the resulting decrease in net working capital represents an increase in net cash flow. Okay, don't consider interest charges because cost of capital includes them. All right. Now, the federal government allows people or other corporations to write off an asset on an accelerated basis. Now, what do I mean by an accelerated basis? What I mean is basically this. Go to Appendix 9A in this chapter. Okay, go to page 349, please. There is a table there called Table 94A3. Do you all see that? Okay, what I want all of you to realize is this is the what is known as the IRS approved tax rates. This is the modified accelerated cost recovery system that you can use. For a 3-year asset, you can deduct a lot more in the first. In the 3 years, you deduct a lot more in the first 2. Thereby, your cash flows increase more earlier. For 7 years, you recover kind of like 14 plus 24, 40% in the first 2 years. And if you include the 3rd year, you include nearly 60% in the first 3. So these help companies, and because of that, you can write off your assets more quickly. We'll be doing that. Okay. Well, it's difficult to predict actual. Well, these are all problems associated with this. Cash flow estimates for different projects may have varying degrees of uncertainty. The returns from asset replacement projects are generally easier to forecast than the returns from new product introduction projects. Now, a survey of Fortune 500 firms found this, that the majority of firms responding to the survey had an annual capital budget of more than 100 million. Nearly 67% of the firms prepared formal cash flow estimates. This is survey research. Let's work a few problems now. I think I already sent you these, but this particular PowerPoint slides. Did I not? I'm pretty sure I did. Didn't I send it yesterday? I sent it as 10 and 11 if I remember right. Let me see. Today I sent you the review sheet for exam 2. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I sent it. Check again, would you? Kimberly, can you check again? I'm pretty sure I sent it. If not, shoot me an email, I'll send it to you. 19th. Oh, okay, I sent it on the 19th. Monday. Was it Monday? Yeah. Yeah, I did. All right. Okay, let's do this problem. The Macaulay company has sales of 200 million and total expenses excluding depreciation of 130 million. So revenues minus operating expenses 200 minus 130 is 70 minus depreciation of 15. The straight line depreciation on the company's assets is 15 million. Okay, so if you remove that, you got operating earnings before tax of 55 million. From that, you pay 40% tax, it's 22 million. So earnings after tax is 33 million. Add back the depreciation. Remember, you add back the depreciation. 15 million, you get 48 million as operating cash flow. Now, I want all of you to use the formula 9.3 here. Okay. Now, if you use that, you'll notice that obviously this is only one project. So revenues minus operating cost minus depreciation, which is what they did. Then they removed tax. Then they added back the depreciation. We heard nothing about working capital management. So you see, you can make a mistake using that formula even here when there is no new project being considered. Now, what they're asking you here is, assuming that the company uses straight line book for book purposes, which is what this is, and assuming accelerated depreciation for tax purposes, show the income statement reported to stockholders. What is the after-tax operating cash flow under these circumstances? So let's go take a look at that one. Okay, now here there is a small difference from the previous page. You have 200 million is the same, 130 million is the same. Instead of 15 million, we now have 25 million. You are being allowed to write off 25 million. Now let me ask you this, how many of you would refuse to take an extra expense if IRS says, hey, you can go ahead and take it? Would you mind taking it or not? You're going to say, hey, no, I want to pay more taxes. Anyone? Anyone in this class? Says, no, they're federal debt. Even he wouldn't. I doubt it. I would take any deduction given to me legally. I mean, remember one thing. Avoiding tax is not a crime. Like, for example, how many of you heard of the name Susie Orman? Okay, Philip, what does she do? She's an investment analyst, right? She advises people about their financial affairs, right? Brian doesn't like her. Right. You know where she has all her money? She had $69 million a few years ago. She put it all in municipal bonds, high quality municipal bonds, because she makes 3 million of them and she doesn't pay a cent in tax on those. Now 200 minus 130 minus 25. So you now are showing a profit of only 45, whereas earlier you showed 55 in the previous page. Since you are showing less profit, you pay less taxes. Okay, your after-tax profit is 27 million, whereas in the previous page it was actually 33 million. Because you're showing less profit, you might be showing less profit, but your cash flows are actually gone up by 4 million. Go back to the previous page, 48. And remember, in finance, cash is king. So essentially, what it means is you are getting $4 million extra cash to invest. You can read this later on. The income statement reported to stockholders will be the above as a cash flow statement shown in Part A. Okay, except that the income statement ends with the item operating earnings after tax of 33 million. The after-tax operating cash flow is affected by tax depreciation charged by the firm, not the book depreciation. So $4 is shown as actually deferred taxes. Now let's take a look at this. Problem 2. Calculate the annual straight line depreciation for a machine that costs $50,000 and has installation and shipping costs of $1,000. So that's $51,000. The machine will be depreciated over a period of 10 years. Well, 5,100, that means. Installed cost of the asset divided by the number of years of the life of the asset. Alright. This is a good problem. Now Johnson Products is considering purchasing a new milling machine that costs $100,000. The machine's installation and shipping costs will total $2,500. If accepted, the milling machine project will require an initial net working capital of $20,000. Johnson plans to depreciate the machine on a straight line basis over a period of 8 years. About a year ago, Johnson paid $10,000 a month to a consulting firm to conduct a feasibility study for the new milling machine. Johnson's marginal tax rate is 40%. Calculate the project's net investment and the annual straight line depreciation on the product, and calculate the depreciation using a 7-year class asset. Let us start with part A. Let us go back to what I told you all in page, what was it, 316? $326. Let's start with this one. The new project cost plus any installation and shipping costs associated to acquiring the asset and putting it into service. So 100,000 plus 2,500. Okay, so we have those two. Now plus any increases in working capital initially required as a result of the new investment. 20,000, right? Okay, we included that. The net proceeds from the sale of existing assets when the investment is a replacement decision. It obviously is not, because they don't mention anything about it. So you don't have to worry about it. Since you're not buying or selling anything, you don't have to worry about the taxes associated with that either. So your net investment is 120 to 500. So by following that formula, you get to the correct answer very easily. Now, about a year ago, they used $10,000 to consulting firm to conduct a feasibility study. Why are we not including that? It is sunk costs. Remember? That's over. Gone. Forget it. You can't include that here and say, oh, okay, we spent $10,000, so let us waste another $100,000. No. It's over. Move on. Okay? Are you all with me? Okay. Can calculate the annual straight line depreciation for the project. Well, the installed cost of the asset is $102,500. Divided by 8 is 12,850. But if you are using the MACRS method, go to page 349 and you can see there, okay, now what is your 7-year class asset? So first year you get 14.29%, second year is 24.49. You can all calculate this. Instead of 12,812 in the first year every year, you are deducting more in the first 3 years here. When your profits from the project will be at their highest, you get to keep most of the profits because of this reason. Do you all understand? That's the advantage of the MACRS method. Okay? Alright. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 more problems we need to do and then we can call it a day. Chapter 10 is already there, as I mentioned, and it's available for you to pursue, for you to look at. I also want to remind you all, we'll continue with chapters 11 and 16 next Monday, a week from yesterday, that is, 6 days from now. Now, something came up and I need to go away a week from today, Tuesday, to kind of like Thursday. So Next week, I may not be very available between Tuesday and Thursday. I'll try to answer emails, but I should be back in town by Friday morning in time, and I should be here thereafter. Something came up, I need to go, but we will continue with those 2 chapters on Monday, and also I'll try to take my computer with me so that to a certain extent at least I'll be able to help you. I won't be in my office, but since none of you visit my office anyway, that shouldn't matter. But if you come, if you want to plan on other days, not on those 3, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. Especially Wednesday and Thursday, I won't be here at all. I might be here Tuesday morning, but all right. But I'll be available on email, although not as since I'll be in meetings, I won't be available as I am now. Like I won't be answering in 10 minutes like I do now. It will take at least 2-3 hours to answer that, if not more. But yeah, you'll get an answer within 24 hours from me always. It doesn't matter where I am. Okay? Is that okay with all of you? All right. Let us look at problem 7. The Taylor Mountain Uranium Company currently has an annual cash revenues of $1.2 million and annual cash expenses of $700,000. Depreciation amounts to $200,000 per year. These figures are expected to remain constant for the foreseeable future, at least 15 years. The firm's marginal tax rate is 40%. A new high-speed processing unit costing $1.2 million is being considered as a potential investment designed to increase the firm's output capacity. This new piece of equipment will have an estimated usable life of 10 years and a 0 estimated salvage value. If the processing unit is bought, Taylor's annual revenues are expected to increase to $1.6 million, and its annual expenses, exclusive of depreciation, will increase to $900,000. Annual depreciation will increase to $320,000. Assume that there is no increase in net working capital will be required as a result of this project. Compute the project's annual net cash flows for the next 10 years, assuming that this new processing unit will be purchased. They give you a ton load of information. And the best way to answer this is to go to formula 9.3. Is it 9.3? What was that? In 328. I think it was 9.3, yeah. Net cash flows. Well, net investment they've given us already more or less $1.2 million. So that's not a problem. We can answer first question easily. Now the net cash flows is the part that is more important here. So let us start with the first one. Revenues with minus revenues without. What is the new revenues? What are the old revenues? $1.2 million. Look at the first sentence. Has annual cash revenues of $1.2 million and annual cash expenses of $700,000. Now the new one is $1.6 million. So what is the difference between 1.6 and 1.2 million? Revenues with minus revenues without. If you accept the new project, your revenues will go up by, is it this amount? $400,000? Am I right? Do you all agree with me? $400,000, right? Revenues with minus revenues without is $400,000. Minus change in operating costs. What are the new operating costs? $900,000. What were the old operating costs? $700,000. The difference is $200,000. Are you all with me? Okay. Then minus depreciation. Now what is the differential depreciation? Earlier your depreciation was $200,000. Now it's $320,000 if you accept this project. So there is a 120 increase. I used purple to do that particular one. So 400 minus 200 minus 120, the change in earnings before taxes is 80 million. From 80 million you pay 40% taxes, which is 32 million. So you're left with 48 million at the end of that. Now then you add back the depreciation to it, right? You add back the 120 to 48, you get a net cash flow of 168. Do you all see what we did? Followed the formula to the letter. Did you all notice that? Do this, follow those two, the initial investment and the net cash flow. The chances of making an error get really minimized. Let us do the last problem I have planned for today. Problem 8. A firm has an opportunity to invest in a new device that will replace two of the firm's older machines. The new device costs $570,000 and requires an additional outlay of $300,000 to cover installation and shipping. So let us go and take a look at net investment. The cost of the new project plus any installation and shipping costs. So let us put install cost of $600,000. Start off with that. Then they tell us the second one. Any increase in net working capital. The new device will cause the firm's to increase its net working capital by $20,000. Add that. Then the net proceeds from the sale minus the net proceeds from the sale of existing assets when the investment is a replacement decision. Okay, the new device will replace two older machines. So here we actually do have two machines being replaced. Both the old machines can be sold, the first for $100,000 and the second for $150,000. So minus $250,000 because that money is coming in. Okay, 600 minus 20. Sorry, plus 20 minus 250. Then let us see the tax effects. Step 4 is the taxes associated with the sale of existing assets and the purchase of new assets. Now the first one had a book value of $95,000, so you have a gain of $5,000 on which you pay 40% tax of $2,000, which is minus on a regular income basis. But in this case, since it's going out, it is taken as a plus. See, if tax savings are there, they come in. When you are paying taxes, they go out. That's the reason why it is included in the cost. Because you see, when you are calculating this $250,000 as an incoming cash flow, any tax you pay on that is an outgoing tax flow. Does it make sense to you all? The page is 326. Esther, I'm doing it from the one in page 326. Okay, now on the second machine, you have the book value is $75,000. You're paying, you got $150 for it. That means this is called a landfall gain. So you pay $30,000 taxes on that. So you add that too. So you're 600 plus 20, 620 minus 250 plus 2 plus 30, 402,000. Follow everything like this to the letter. I cannot stress the importance of the series of steps in page 326 in calculating net investment and the net cash flows in page 328. Okay? Is that clear to everyone? The chances of making an error get really minimized if you do that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'll talk to you all again next week. Do well on the second exam. Okay. Alright? And this week, whole week, I'm here. And next week, I'll talk to you all again on Monday. And have a safe week. Thanks. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, John. I think so, Esther. I'm pretty sure you can. Normally those things work well. But I would rather you all not wait until Sunday, honestly. To be completely honest, if I were you, I'll try to plan to take it earlier. I'm really mad that they got this at that time, but these things are not controlled by us, but by a corporation which controls e-college. I'm really very angry with them. And they did it even in spring. I don't know why they do it during exam weeks. You don't have to take it. If you took the first exam and you're happy with your score, you don't have to take it. I mean, what I'll try to do is I'll try to give you all until noon on Monday. This this is not a promise, but since they sprang an unexpected surprise, and since I have the advantage in that I can decide when to close the exam, I'll give you all until noon on Monday. Okay? Alright. Did I answer it, Johnny? Then I did not get it. Because I don't let emails go unanswered at all. You never, you never can send me an email and me not answer. Unless it's completely insignificant, which I doubt if it is. So, have a nice week, rest of the week, everyone. Bye, all.